You're not a chicken. I'm not a chicken for choosing challenge and discomfort as a way forward instead of scared out of your pants. Welcome to the Foster Your Voice podcast with me, Christy Foster. After a 30-year career in music and theater, I never imagined I'd be coaching trial attorneys. But once I entered your world, I quickly realized how critical and underutilized voice is in the courtroom. The truth is, you don't win trials with brute strength. You win with your voice. I'll give you tools to unlock your voice so you can communicate not just with purpose, but on purpose. If you want quick action tips to help you stay calm and in control, keep jurors engaged, and inspire your listeners to action, all through the power of your voice, you're in the right place. I'm Christy Foster, and I'm here to help you foster your voice. Hello, welcome. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm delighted to have you in the Foster fam. I hope you've been part of the podcast from the beginning, but whenever you've joined us, I'd love it if you'd just take a second to give a star rating and a quick written review on whatever platform you're listening on, or on YouTube if you're watching there. It helps so much in helping others find me in their search for vocal coaching or courtroom communication tips. The other thing that helps is if you just share the podcast. Maybe there's someone you'd like to recommend me to. Just share the great new podcast you're listening to and get them started on their vocal journey. So, to get us started today, let's just take a second to check in with your breathing. Just like in last week's episode, we talked about how you use your different voices in different situations. You also breathe differently in different situations. So, how are you breathing right now? Well, I'm going to guess that you're breathing kind of shallow, like not every breath is a low, thoughtful, expanded breath, right? You're just breathing casually and probably feeling a little expansion into your ribs. Great. But think of when you're working out, when you're exercising, when you're aerobic. That shallow breath becomes more aggressive and elevated even more, maybe breathing into your shoulders. And then to calm your body down, you intentionally force your breathing to drop to your abdomen and to make those lower muscles do the work. This is sometimes called belly breathing or yoga breathing. A fun fact, you also breathe deep like this when you sleep. So your body knows how to breathe in a variety of settings. I just want you to be able to do it on purpose. So which should you use in the courtroom? Well, I'm going to encourage you to use that lower belly breathing as often as possible when you're presenting. Why? This lower breathing stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. That's what's referred to as rest and digest. That low breathing helps to tone the vagus nerve that runs across the top of the diaphragm, which promotes relaxation. Doesn't that sound good? To be relaxed in a high stress situation and be able to respond purposefully rather than react spontaneously? Well, that's important not just for you, but for the jury. Breathing is contagious. If you breathe with depth and grounding, your jurors will mirror that. Likewise, if you breathe high, shallow, and revved up in your fight or flight response, the jury will too. That's not a good decision-making place. When you're in fight or flight, you'll make whichever decision will get you out of there the fastest, and that is rarely a plaintiff's verdict. You want them in their parasympathetic rest and digest so that they can make thoughtful, well-formed decisions. And finally, your vocal cords are located right here in your larynx, your neck area. If you're breathing high in your chest and activating all these surrounding muscles, is it reasonable to expect that your voice will be free, unencumbered by tension, flexible, and at the ready for whatever you want to do with your purposeful expression? No, that's not reasonable at all. So today, just start bringing your awareness to your breath. How are you breathing? Physically, what parts of your body are moving? And can you intentionally put to rest some, like your neck, shoulders, and chest, while purposefully activating other parts, like your abdominal muscles? Remember, you do this masterfully when you're sleeping. So when you lay down tonight or in the middle of the day, I'm not judging whenever you want to lay down, just take a few minutes to notice, how does my body naturally want to do this? Where do I feel movement now? And then try to replicate that when you stand up. You know what I hate? Being misunderstood. It's actually one of my biggest fears, if I'm honest, right up there with birds. Yes, I'm afraid of birds. Leave me alone about it already. Being misunderstood is just the worst, though. Trying to communicate something and seeing that it's just not landing the way you intend. Too harsh of tone with your kid or spouse that ended up setting them off. A thinking face that got interpreted as annoyance or irritation and ended up shutting down the conversation and leaving you baffled. It's so frustrating in our personal lives, but in the courtroom, your mismatched communication profile could break your case and lose you a deserving verdict. So, I've created a free guide to get you thinking about the emotional profiles you create. It's a printable guide to help you 10x your communication impact by mastering 6 emotional profiles for clear and authentic connection. I break down the 6 core emotions: happy, sad, love, pride, anger, and fear by giving you face, body, and breathing cues. Plus, I show you exactly which point on a 1 to 10 scale you should be with your pitch, pace, melody, volume, and tone in order to authentically capture the center of that core emotion. The link to get your free guide is in the show notes or by simply going to my website, fostervoicestudio.com. Don't wait to clear up your part of miscommunication and misunderstandings. Get your free download today. Okay, so we're already into February. Like, how? How did that happen? But before we get too far into this month, I wanted to ask, did you declare a word of the year for 2025? A lot of times people will declare January as like dry January or veganuary. Maybe you did those as well. It tends to be a time to try new things, to set intentions, and maybe even cast a vision for the whole year. And that's where word of the year comes in. It's kind of a theme for the year, a focal point, if you will. I have really found a lot of value in choosing a word of the year for the last several years. It's usually in late November or early December that a word will just come to mind and then keep coming up and keep coming up. So, as a faith-based person, I usually just start praying about it and listening to that inner voice or that inner conviction. What's that word all about? It's always been a really intriguing and kind of a neat process, actually. 2 years ago, I had just turned 49 years old, so I went with the word jubilee. It's a biblical concept about releasing debt and enslavements, which I internalized as reconciling some relationships, learning about forgiveness, and generally just getting my own finances in order. Last year, my word was reclaim, which I didn't understand why, but in faith, I just went with it and hoped it would mean something to me at some point. Well, lo and behold, at the end of January, my employment situation changed, and I was able to go full time with my vocal coaching studio. So it turns out that 2024 was all about reclaiming my schedule, my physical energy, my emotional output, and my vision for myself and for my business. So that was really cool. So this year, it just took me a bit longer to really settle in on my 2025 word, which is why I'm talking about this now instead of right at the start of the year. I actually really wrestled with it this year. So here was the struggle. I had two words. Okay, fine, sure. I could have just declared two words. Of course, that's totally fine. But no, my rule oriented Enneagram 6 mind just couldn't. I had to figure it out and decide on one. So here they are. And they came to me at about the same time and both swirled around. So, dream versus consistency, wild abandon versus planning and implementing. Now, several years ago, I did a fundamentals course for a mindset or life coaching program. And on the very first day, they called on one person out of the crowd and just asked them a question. What is your dream? Well, that person was me, and I nearly had a panic attack. I honestly didn't know how to answer it. I mean, do you have an answer for that? What is your dream? In that moment, I just made something up. And it was true, but it still really shook me. And I was really impacted by that experience. And I started believing that I am a bad dreamer. I'm bad at dreaming. And I started to notice this play out across my life too, like in brainstorming meetings. I'm just not the vision caster. I'm the but how person. No idea is a bad idea? Well, that's not true. Or at least that's what I say in my head when I force a smile and an encouraging, yeah, maybe, head nod. But inside, I die a slow, painful death during brainstorming. I am just way too practical and structured to waste my time on unrealistic ideas that will never happen. What's the point? So, see what I mean about thinking that I'm not good at dreaming? Dreams are frivolous. I need a step-by-step action plan, or at least a plausible action plan. I mean, I'm the little girl who, instead of playing make-believe fairy princess, I played secretary and I created forms to fill out. No joke. Name, followed by a straight line. Address, another straight line. I mean, I had notebooks of forms that I made and filled out. So, yeah, dream as my word for 2025 scared the crap out of me. Now, at the same time, consistency spoke up. And you might think, well, sure, consistency is maybe the other end of the spectrum as dreaming. There's your action plan and your step by step strategies, right? And you wouldn't be wrong. But for all the applications of the word consistency across multiple aspects of my life, there's actually quite a bit of discomfort that brings up. I know I'm really selling you on having a word of the year, all this stress and discomfort, but I have goals for my business, for health and wellness, for spiritual development, for financial planning, for relationships, yada, yada. So to apply consistency to all of that, yeah, a little discomfort. So, did I muster up extra doses of courage and say, fear be damned, I'm going with dreaming? Nope, I picked consistency. So, why do I share all of this? Well, I think it's important to identify the things that scare the crap out of you. By identifying them, it starts to demystify them, and with time, they'll become less scary. In fact, I already have noticed that I'm starting to dream a little bit more. like thinking about fanciful things with no agenda for how to make them actually come to pass, or even wanting them to come to pass. Dreaming is in my future. Maybe, maybe that'll be my 2026 word. We'll just see. But it's really okay not to force yourself into blind panic on the daily. It's noble and good to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and do things that cause some discomfort. But it's also hope filled and gives some positive encouragement and reinforcement when you can also have some doable action, some small defined steps that build safety and move you in the direction you know you were made for. You're not a chicken. I'm not a chicken for choosing challenge and discomfort as a way forward instead of scared out of your pants. Vocally and non-verbally as a whole, this is the same approach I encourage you to take. Consistency in the face of discomfort is what will build the skills and move the needle for you. As trial attorneys, you might dream of winning every case, but it's the consistent prep, the work on your voice and presence that gets you there. Do the vocal warm up, work on your breathing, get some coaching as you develop your skill set, and don't give up on being or becoming a dreamer. But also, don't let continuous panic, flop sweat, and chest constrictions be your daily path. Challenge yourself, do the little things, and free up your heart to be able to dream with ease. Embrace consistent discomfort while opening the door to dream big, and keep fostering your voice. Thanks for pulling up a seat with me today and for being part of the Foster fam. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave a review or a comment so I can give you a shout out on a future episode. During the week, you can find me on Instagram at Foster Voice Studio, where I'm dropping little nuggets of vocal technique and leadership wisdom. You can also join my mailing list by visiting fostervoicestudio.com or by clicking the link in the show notes. I'll send a weekly vocal tip every Tuesday directly to your inbox. Until then, keep fostering your voice.